Recording your life story and the story of loved ones is easier than you think and can bring positive experiences you never dreamed possible. Asking the right questions and organizing the story are just two of the areas covered by Debby Bitticks and her guests as she leads us through a process of connecting, asking questions, recording information, gaining understanding, and sharing stories with loved ones.
How many of you have ever lost a mother or a father or a loved one, and you wish that you had gotten their life story? Wow, most of us. We all have a story to tell, and we are the only ones that can tell this story. When we're gone, if we haven't shared our stories, it too is gone forever. You all know that when I interviewed my father, it transformed both of our lives. But it gave my father the benefit of being understood. He felt appreciated, and it gave him the opportunity to pass down all those life lessons and all of those values that he believed in to the next generation. I never, ever understood the personal experience that my father lived through. My father actually asked me what I remembered from my childhood and my teenage years. I think I was angry. I didn't know what hit me. So after I expressed all this to my father, he said, okay, now I want you to hear my version of what happened. After we had that talk, I understood why he had this passion and why he dedicated his life, and we began to have a new relationship. I knew my dad my whole life, but I really didn't know my dad until he was in his 80s. Because I took the time to actually interview my father, it literally transformed our lives. I guarantee you that if you will take the time to interview a loved one, it will take that relationship and it will just bring it to a whole new, incredible level. I was told by the caregivers that came to help me with my father that they had the best experience in our home. And the reason was my father's life story. They all said that they could spend hours with my father and connect with him. And even when my dad was losing his short-term memory, and it was a little painful to watch, the caregivers were able to open up his life story, and they could take him back to that long-term memory and just connect with him. And also, I think just having that story, there was never a moment where anybody took care of my father if I had to leave the house who didn't enjoy him, because he wasn't just this older person, he was his lifetime of stories. When you share stories and you communicate with your grandchildren, there is no generation gap. All of you grandparents, it's so important to pass on your lifetime of stories and all those lessons that you have learned in life and your values and your philosophies. Pass it on. It will be a treasure to your grandchildren and to future generations. You can do it anytime, anywhere. You can do it in person. You can even interview over the phone. I know families that have a Sunday evening call to somebody 3,000 miles away, and they slowly get through it, and you can get the interview done. And if by some chance the story isn't exactly accurate as to the way you think it is, just honor the way that person happens to remember the story. How many of you have pictures at home and you don't have them labeled and you don't know the story behind the pictures? Oh my gosh, everyone. Now you can ask yourself, how do you enjoy photos? Some people like them by just bringing out a big box and dumping it on the kitchen table and just kind of going through them. Some people like to put them in photo albums, and any kind of an album's fine. Other people like to do them online on a computer. Any way you do it is okay, but identify your pictures. Don't forget the who, the what, the where, and the when. One of my favorite pictures is my father with his arm around me, and he's hugging me, and we're in the middle of the interview. And he just said, "I love you so much, and this is the best thing that's ever happened to me." And that's like one of my favorite pictures in the world. My father died in 2005. He was 89 years old. And the story of his life is the greatest gift my father ever gave me, and to 4 generations in our family. Before my father died, he asked me to make a promise to him. He wanted me to spend the rest of my life telling everyone I meet to please write their life story, and to ask every child to interview their parents and grandparents. And I made that promise, and I'm actually keeping my promise by being here with all of you today. Thank you.